Fear not, citizens. Hope has arrived as the Amateur Otaku is back to talk more My Hero Academia. I am Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet fan here. My heart is on edge with the latest chapter of My Hero Academia. We apologize that we could not record our thoughts on this latest chapter that came out on September 11th. But we are back here to talk about this awesome chapter, chapter 365, number 4 and 5, and number 5. It left us in a big cliffhanger in last chapter. This chapter is just picking up the pieces in style and power and wonder, and at the same time, what the hell is going on? But as always, I'm not here to talk about my thoughts on my hero by myself. I am with my good friend Isaac Wolf
Good day.
and the one and only, somewhat present Mike. What's up, man?
Hey, this is an interesting chapter. I'm very fascinated to see what you guys' thoughts are on this one.
So, if you guys remember, last time we spoke of My Hero Academia, um, of course, what do we call him? All for Shiggy, right? Is kind of making the big three's effort look like little kids in the play yard, and he's just a giant adult asshole that's kicking down the sandcastles, um, because everything feels utterly pointless. But in the background, as everybody's gripping to the fact that they've lost Bakugo, and Best Genius is trying to okay, Best Genius is trying to somewhat stop the bleeding. The big thing is that Edge Shot, Best Genius's friend, probably number 2 guy, the number 4 hero, comes over with his ability of spinning his body into thread and says that he's going to bring this boy back to life. The last words that we get from the final chapter from the last chapter was that Best Genius understands that if Etshot tries to minimize his body to the precision and the size that it requires to stitch Bakugo's heart, he might be giving his life. And interestingly enough, the chapter starts with a little bit of Grey's Anatomy, as we see Etshot that looks great, like Dr. Gray. No, I'm kidding. That's so bad. Deep cuts, I know. Um, but he's literally spinning his
I
body.
thought I was the one making the puns here.
Yeah, he's becoming this very, very thin piece of thread and goes inside of Bakugo, and his goal is to stop the bleeding and stitch up his heart and his lungs because there's a lot of internal bleeding and internal damage in there. Now, I am going to say this. One of the most interesting and fascinating things of My Hero that I truly enjoy is whenever Horikoshi steps into the book. And what I mean by that is whenever he starts describing quirks, because I love how it's so nonchalant. It's like it's not even like a narrator, right? You know what I mean? Like because sometimes like a narrator is built into the story. I love how in those the way the thought boxes change. They're very meticulous, and they have this particular edge to them. I kind of feel like it's literally Horikoshi like looking at us and say, "Okay, guys, so this is guy's edge shot, and this is how his quirk works." You know what I mean? So I like that they're bringing that to explain in detail the powers of a hero that we've barely seen, which conveniently we're finding out what his quirk is as he's doing what he's doing, which plot convenience, but hey, it's okay. We all want Bakugo back. Now, how do we feel about what's going on? Especially the fact that I think we talked a little bit about it last time. The idea that Bakugo, if he comes back to life, right, Bakugo's going to have to understand that somebody had to die for him to come back. So it's kind of like the Armin scenario, where Armin keeps suffering Erwin's death, right, because he was picked. Um, how do you guys feel about that, Isaac?
You want me to go first, or okay? But well, first of all, how should I put it? My biggest My biggest gripe with the whole thing is honestly this: Deku did, unless they in the next chapter and 2 chapters, is that Deku didn't even see what happened with Bakugo, which sure, this is a sort of like a character moment for him, as you said. He gets an arm and stuff, kind of deal. However, what makes me going the reason of saying spoke too soon is not the fact that I believe that I was quote unquote celebrating that he was dying. Is that uh, awful Shiggy's reaction when they figure out that they are being desperate trying to resurrect him. And he said, "Why are they bothering? It wasn't like someone was helping me back then, like that." That is sort of like that moment in general. Honestly, it's it's weird to say, but it's sort of made it worth it, kind of deal. And also, I know that I've said it before, but I say it again. But the last panel in particular is, well, Horikoshi needs to make a horror manga after this.
And let me
And
take a shot of this coffee.
We need to penalize Isaac every time he says that. Like he needs to give us 50 cents.
I mean, can you blame me with that panel?
Ever since we've seen All for Shiggy is literally the epitome of the idea of Horikoshi making horror manga.
Which is, that's why it's like, there's no point in referencing it anymore. Whenever he's on quote unquote screen,
Yes,
it's a horror manga.
Yeah.
like in reality, All for Shiggy looks like he came straight out of Resident Evil, part human, and the rest is just bleh. Like it's like he's just a living blob of hands, and not only that, it's like ever since the faces started to appear on that other side of him, it's just been kind of ridiculous.
Also, I love Mirko's attitude about pretty much falling apart, but still he is fighting like nothing is happening to her, and that spirit is just, you go, girl, get him, kind of deal. Okay, that might be sound wrong in out of context, but you guys get my point.
She's a bad bunny. Yeah.
Wow, that I should have been ready for that, but I wasn't.
You weren't ready for that because it was from Mike and not me.
Well, here's the thing. I'm Puerto Rican, so I should be ready for Bad Bunny whenever they mention it. But I wasn't ready. You know what's interesting? So going off what you said about Shiggy and how this introspection that we're getting into his character was kind of a very positive result of the whole thing with Bakugo, Etshot, and Best Jeanist. It's interesting because it kind of shows the kinks in the armor, right? Because of course we can't spend an eternity thinking that the villain is unstoppable. We have to show kinks in the armor so that whenever he's taken down, it makes sense, right? But interestingly enough, I love how it's revealing all these different sides of Shigaraki and how the assimilation in the All for Shiggy process is not all there. Like that kid is still there. I even forgot his name, but he's still there, suffering and trying to find answers to everything that happened to him as he was growing, and everything that happened with his life and his powers when they manifested, and yada yada yada.
Tanko is still waiting for All Might to save him.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though, and it's funny, in him waiting for All Might to save, and All for One lied to him and just made him into this monster. Which is a good parallel, or interesting, right? The kid wanting to be a hero ended up becoming the biggest villain.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking also about the whole thing with Mirko. Like, what I like how this particular chapter kind of highlights the very strict difference about between heroes and villains, right? Is that the villain's priority will always be themselves, but the hero's priority will always be others. Because that's kind of the defining factor in every single action that we see Edshot Mirko take, and everything that All for Shiggy is doing, right? And I like how it's highlighted that way because I think there's even a panel there where Mirko says like, "Hey, if you're gonna kill me, might as well. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna go down, do what I need to do." You know what I mean?
It's
To
the same idea of Star and Stripe, right? Where
Right.
Star was like, if I'm going to die,
Yeah.
I'm going to deal as much damage as possible to give everyone
Yep.
else a shot.
Yep.
That's great.
And it's also the idea of real heroes. And it's funny because you know how you always have. So I just finished watching Supernatural, right? That's besides the point, but I love that show. It's a guilty pleasure. But like, you have always the idea of the hero that always says that he wants to die with his boots on, right? Like he wants to die on the battlefield, right? But then you have the other side of leadership where why would you die on the battlefield as opposed to just dying to make sure that the leaders of tomorrow are ready for what's coming? Does that make sense? So I like the idea of Mirko and Edshot dying on the battlefield, but also with the idea that this kid is the future. And interesting enough, Isaac, you mentioned the whole thing about Deku not being here. And I think this is the first chapter that I actually feel glad that Deku is not there. Because we can finally see Bakugo as a character in his own right. Because one of the biggest thing about Bakugo is that every time we know him or see him or even analyze who he is and how he acts, it's always linked to Deku or All Might. We never see him separate. We never see him as his own thing. And now, seeing these heroes doing what they're doing, fighting how they're fighting, because they see that this kid is something else. It's part of the future. And we need to give him what we can so he can help win this fight. You know, I like that because it kind of elevates Bakugo to a similar standing in Deku. And I like how they're kind of like all that character development that we got with Shoto that we never had with Bakugo. It's kind of happening here, and I'm seeing it in that light. I'm enjoying it more. Am I talking out of my ass, or is there some validity to that?
It's one of those things where when this entire thing happened, and it was kind of frustrating at first, but we kept saying, well, we'll see how it plays out. We see how it comes together. I think that's why it's having that effect, right? Because we're instead of being like, well, why is Bakugo being brought back? We now understand what he's doing with it in the story, right? Like Isaac said earlier, seeing how that affects Shigaraki is also huge, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's cool because that's the first moment in a year that we actually clearly understand that that's Tomura Shigaraki speaking. We're not confused on if that's All for One speaking.
Right.
That those words are clearly Tomura. And so that by itself, I think, is a huge moment and a great show of why, like you said, Brandon, why Deku can't be here. The heroes need to appeal to Shigaraki without Deku. And maybe that gives Deku the shot he needs to talk no jutsu out of the situation.
Yes. Yep. It's funny you say that because it's kind of bringing and it also kind of brings validity to Jiro and Tsukiyami being in the battle with Hawks and Endeavor.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of bringing validity to the fact that no, guys, we didn't forget that this is a story of Class 1A. It's kind of like going full circle now, where every member in 1A is kind of being elevated to this rank. Everybody's doing something extraordinary within their abilities. And because I know that in the beginning, I don't know if it's season 4 or 5 where Deku starts talking about it in that manner, but I know that in the beginning of the first couple of seasons, it was all about how I became the world's greatest hero, right? Or the number one hero. And I think it's towards the beginning of this war that he talked about. This is a story of how we became the world's
Yeah,
greatest heroes.
that hasn't happened in the anime yet. That's when Uraraka's speech brings
Right.
him to his knees, which is a great moment, by the way.
Right. But I like how that validity is now here. Like it's all that's what Horikoshi was going for. This is how we demonstrate why these kids are the world's greatest heroes, and it's just great. It's just great. And I don't know. It's like, and it's funny how there's no victory unless there's sacrifice. But what other way of bringing new heroes to the top tier than, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but by the others laying down their sacrifice so others can understand that there was a cost.
I mean, it's almost like a purge, right? It's basically what Stain envisioned. We had a lot of these false heroes, these fake heroes fall or quit, but all that remains are the ones who carry All Might's ideal, right?
Right.
That never give up attitude,
Right.
which
Right.
I think is amazing. And I love how Stain is such an important character when you think about this series.
Yep.
Because yeah, they all fight and think like All Might. Even Endeavor has changed to become more like All Might.
Yep.
And so
Because he's
Yeah.
understood what All Might represented. He
Yeah.
got it.
yeah, and so it basically like that first war was basically filtering out all of I wouldn't say the bad heroes.
Wait. Are you saying that the villain arc is the let's kill the fillers arc?
Kind of, but not just kill. Like think about how many heroes retired
Yes.
in that arc. Like
Or
once
became
you-
villains.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that is a testament, though, going back to Shigaraki, seeing how these heroes react. When you have true heroes, that's when you can make a difference. And I think Shigaraki sees that. I don't know how he's going to react to that. It just might piss him off even more because
Yeah.
they never saved him.
I mean,
But-
he's always pissed off though.
Right. but the idea of having all of these people, all of these heroes fight for one united front instead of it just being All Might alone, I think that's the point of the story, right? That's how All Might and Deku make a difference, by inspiring others.
Right. And that's also what, and it goes back to the best of the Western comics. It goes back to Superman. Like the whole point of Superman is not just the fact that he's Superman, right? It's the fact that he believes that every human being has the capacity to be great. And he's just a guy trying to do the right thing so that others can see that they can do the right thing. Like a lot of people focus on Kal-El's powers, on his alien heritage. They focus on all those things, which are important. But in reality, a lot of people forget that the biggest difference between Superman and Batman is that Batman is who he is, and Bruce Wayne is the mask he wears. Clark Kent is the man. Superman is just the suit that he wears to work.
Yeah.
And that's why he's there to inspire people. And it's kind of, and I love that about heroes because that's like the greatest thing, you know. And I like how, and more importantly also is like I love how every hero gives their, and I think, and I'm gonna try and word this properly. In a world where finally, not perfectly, right? Because we all see the response to the Rings of Power. But in a world where creators that care about their impact in society are taking diversity very seriously, right? I love how in My Hero, all these heroes and all these quirk users for good are shining, and by doing their best in whatever their particular ability is. Like, even someone like Edgeshot, for example, it's seen as a juggernaut, and all he's doing is stitching someone up.
Don't forget Wash coming in clutch with that random bubble. Never thought I'd get a Wash reference in the middle of this arc.
Yep.
I mean,
Bubble.
it certainly wasn't washed away.
And, wow.
He hasn't spoken in like 15 minutes. I just want to point out he came back for that joke.
And it's kind of your fault.
Yeah, I know. I want to go back for a second though. I love your observation with Superman and his effect on the DC world, and All Might though, right? Like that's why Deku and Bakugo are so interesting, because Deku sees the warmth and caring side of All Might, and that's what he gravitates to, whereas Bakugo sees the power in All Might, and that's what he gravitated to.
Yep.
And it wasn't until both of them realized you needed the whole that they became, the strongest they possibly could.
Yep.
Which I just think is a fascinating metaphor for Superman, because a lot of times people gravitate to one side or the other when it's like, no, Superman can be a badass, but he also is just like the nicest dude on the planet. It's not mutually exclusive, one or the other. Right. Neither is All Might, and the story kind of shows you that between those two characters, which I think is cool.
It's so funny that you say that, because I just saw a tweet today where I think it's from an issue of Tom Taylor's book, Superman, Son of Kal-El.
Yeah.
Where it's following Jonathan. And it's a shot of Superman, Kal-El, hugging Jonathan. They're both in
I saw that one.
Right, they're both in their respective suits, but you see Clark hugging his son very gently, very affectionately. And then, but it was a guy dissing the scene, saying, "Who hugs their son like that?" You only see that when a mother.
For fuck's sake.
Right. You only see that when a mother hugs an infant. That's what they say. And then Tom Taylor retweets it and replies, the strongest man in the world is not afraid to hug his son.
Yeah.
And that was like, this guy gets it. This guy
Tom's
gets
great.
it. Yeah, man. Tom's awesome.
But yeah, that's the entire point of the character, which is just kind of laughable to me. And
Right.
It's funny because comics and manga are two totally different mediums. Yeah. And you can say that at times manga can be a little more complex than standard comics. You have your graphic novels and stuff like that, which can push the boundaries a bit more. But I just think it's funny how My Hero Academia spells that out for you in All Might, but it feels like people are too stupid to understand that with Superman.
Right. And to understand that the comics that we've known forever in the West is what inspired the idea of heroes in the way that we see in My Hero Academia. So it's not like it's mutually exclusive. Like it's no, guys.
Right.
Horikoshi is taking all those ideas and all those things and bringing them into this world to explore themes that he found beautiful and interesting and epic, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I like the fact that everybody, like everything we see every quirk user do, he gives it a grandiose look, whether they're kicking someone's ass or just providing support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he takes the idea of like nobody's bigger than anyone. We're all equals here. We're all putting our best foot forward, and it's all about community. And only by working as a community can we take the big evil down. Like we're not trying to think that one is better than the other. And it's like, I don't know. It's just freaking awesome. And can we talk about Luna Rush and how I don't know, is she hitting him with her knees, or like does she even have legs anymore? I don't know what's going on. But Mirko is just all thighs, and the thighs are dealing damage.
Thick thighs save lives, my friend. I've been saying it since day one.
I mean,
here comes the Swede.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Oh my god.
But I'm looking, and it's like she doesn't have any arms. Doesn't look like she has any legs. How the heck is she moving?
Well, let me ask you this.
Doesn't it look like Best Genius or someone else's moving her along, so to speak, keeping her
Maybe,
holding.
maybe, but I have a
I
feeling
mean,
that she's
who's?
embraced her inner rabbit. So
I
she just
mean,
has very short
the whole
legs.
the. I was talking about the ropes that is around her, doesn't it? Or
It's
Oh,
doesn't it
possible.
look?
hold on. So yeah, depending on what page you're looking at, I think it's just like a blur effect that makes it look a little off. But I think that's still a
I'm
leg
talk.
brace on her
I'm
leg,
talking
holding
about.
an artifact.
I'm talking about what gives her years so gentle, Mister Demon.
Isaac, you say that like I memorized what page that
He's talking
is.
about the one where she looks like a rabbit, bunny rabbit.
I
Like
can't
I
say.
think I think it's page 7.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, she's got ropes tied to her. Best Jeanist, I think, is busy with Bakugo though, so I don't think
Yeah,
he's doing
Yeah.
anything with
but who
Murata.
the heck else would be able to make
Isaac, this is the same series that had a whole big to do about Toga going missing, and in like 7 chapters, she was just in the League of Villains lair. So I don't know.
Fair point. Fair point.
Some things just don't make sense sometimes.
Now, can we talk about the whole thing with Shigaragi saying, "But I already destroyed that one." Like it's like it kind of makes you feel like the reason he wants to destroy everyone is because he kind of doesn't want to recognize what he actually has to deal with, like his trauma. Like the fact that people are around to comment on his actual, you know what I mean? Like the reason a lot of us isolate when we're going through stuff is because nobody can point out what we're going through if there's no one around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, nobody can bring up to the fact that, hey man, you got a bad rash, or hey man, if you touch things, you break them. So, you know what I mean? Like you can't feel ostracized. You can't like, and it's funny how his argument is all about how society has ostracized him and everybody else and stuff like that. But he's kind of done that to himself in a way because he never had a healthy way to deal with his quirk and his own trauma that he accidentally killed his family.
Quote unquote accidentally.
Well, I mean, I think in reality, just because of his age, we can all say accidentally, even though he was angry at his father because of things that he didn't understand. Because his father also, again, and it's funny because you can actually see a mirror between Endeavor and Tengo's dad. It's unresolved trauma and unresolved internal issues that drove their sons to the dark side, kind of.
Yep.
So, so it's a generational thing, which is horrible. Um, but the idea that he treats people like toys and things that he can freely destroy, it's interesting. And the fact that his ego is hurt because what he has done is not enough. So his self-esteem is really what weakens him, kind of. Because he thought that he already killed Bakugo, so he dealt with the problem. But the fact that they're bringing him back, not only does it prove that what he did wasn't enough, or he's not strong enough, or whatever, so he doubts himself. It also highlights the fact of how alone he is, because Bakugo's coming back because people care, and people see something in him, and I don't know. Maybe this is the kind of thing that kind of drives him back to All for One also, because All for One is the only one that's seen something in him, even though he kind of already realized that All for One just wants to use him.
That's what's so great about that moment. Because yeah, he's looking at all these heroes care for a dead man, a dead child essentially. And he's like, I was alive looking for help and nobody came except for All for One.
Right.
And that is just only going to further damage him. So it's going to be fascinating to see what Izuku does when he gets to this battlefield. I'm pretty sure Deku shows up in like 3 chapters, maybe less.
You know what I
Because
think? Go ahead.
I don't know how much longer they can hold out, how much longer this story can be stretched thin until he gets there. He's gonna have to show up soon, right?
Right, right. I do like the frantic nature of what's going on in the last pages of the book here, because you can kind of tell that even the panels tell you that this battle has gotten to a point where it's almost going to end. Does that make sense? Like we're feeling there's a sense of finality now, which is why I think I agree with what you're saying about Deku finally coming back. Oh, I think I have an idea where Deku is. I think Deku is having a cup of coffee with Captain America as old Cap as he's seeing everything happen around the world and doesn't do anything. They're just enjoying a cup of coffee and talking about, baseball.
I mean, why not?
I mean,
He shows back up. He's like, "Oh, look, my best friend is lying there dead. Really shouldn't have stopped at Whataburger on my way over here, huh?"
oh, boy.
A part of me, like, if you want to get really dark, Isaac might appreciate this. A part of me is probably like, does Deku really want to save Bakugo? Like, out of all the crap he's put him through over this story, he's probably like, yeah, I'm gonna let him get roughed up a little bit. I'm gonna be 2 minutes late. How about that?
No. Now,
No,
Do we
he's too much of a
blame
cinnamon
him.
roll.
Yeah, he's too much of a sinner for that to happen. But if he really said that, who would blame him?
Now,
Mirko.
do we still
Yeah.
think? Do we still think that? Do we still think that we're pretty much going to get the two heroes ending, and that's kind of why they're setting up Bakugo's arc to what's going on now to prep us for that two heroes like ending?
I go ahead,
Don't
Isaac.
know. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I'm still confused as to why he reacted like the way he did, as if he got reminded of the second users. I'm starting to wonder more about the whole Bakugo is the second user, or at least related to. So I want to know. I don't know.
Now that you say it, didn't the reaction to the second user come from Shigaraki? I think that was Shigaraki reacting to what Bakugo was doing.
Right, yeah.
Because remember, All for One has met all the users.
Yeah, so what I think, this is, after giving it some time to think about it, I feel like it's not necessarily he's related to the second user, though you could do that if you really wanted to. I feel like it's more, he represents that idea, right? Because remember, the first and second users are the only ones that worked together. They were alive at the exact same time, working together to
Wasn't
stop
the first, second, and third?
I don't think it was the third.
Yeah, I think the third was there too. Because remember, it was the first and it was the third and the second that saved One for All, and help him escape. I think that's what it was.
So okay, well either way, I feel like the idea of Deku and Bakugo working together to stop All for One is what's reminding him of the second user.
Yes.
So that's where I think that's coming from. Now, to answer your initial question about this being like two heroes, I hope not, because you made two heroes. You told us two heroes was the original ending, and you changed it because you thought.
Oh wait, no, we're talking about Heroes Rising. I'm sorry, we're confusing.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, but you get the idea. The second movie.
Right.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just Horikoshi straight up said, yeah, the second movie was going to be the original ending of the series. We just swapped some characters out. Like 9 was going to be Shigaraki, etc., etc. Cool. But if you tell us that and you make it a movie, I want the ending to be drastically different. That's
I'm
just
with
where
Mike on this regard.
That's where I come from. If you didn't make the movie, then just do that. But since you made the movie and then you told us that's a variation on what the ending was going to be, you got to change it now.
Right. And it's funny because when you think about it, the first two movies end with an epic battle where two heroes work together to stop the villain.
Yeah.
Because you have two, which by the way, I prefer All Might and Deku against the Magneto wannabe. I love that. Especially, it's just so great.
It's a moment that we were never gonna get, so I'm glad they put it in the movie.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Also, 9 is in this chapter. I just want to point that out.
9 is in this chapter?
Yeah.
Where?
Page 4, It's right under Deku's face where Shigaraki's having that flashback of saying he wants to destroy everything. Nine's right there, which I think is either foreshadowing or it's just a reference because he was in that original
9 is
panel.
there. It's canon. No.
I mean, he did say in that interview that we had, that I mentioned when we had, is it Barrett? Name?
Yeah, Barrett Crane, the episode he was here.
Yeah, there was an interview where he said that the movies are canon, so.
Yeah, they are. There's still some debate on if Heroes Rising technically is canon. Like 9 can exist, but the events of that movie don't have to happen that way. Because when you think about it, that now makes Deku the 10th user of One for All, and he should have Explosion.
What do you mean? Oh, because he shared it with Bakugo, so when he gets it back,
he should have
he should have
Bakugo's
the
power,
explosion.
right?
Right.
I mean,
Unless he didn't get everything back.
Dun dun dun.
I mean, if he gets explosions in a later chapter, then we know that 100% that Heroes Rising is canon. Then.
Oh, if that happens, Bakugo's gonna be like, "You should have let me die."
But you know what's interesting though? I think we're gonna start. I think because of Bakugo's experience, which is what I'm looking forward to. Do I want Bakugo to be a dick still from time to time? Yes, but I have a feeling that after this near-death experience, especially the reflection that we see him, like he finally sees eye to eye with Deku. I think it's gonna show. I think their relationship is gonna be different now. And interestingly enough, now that I think about it, even if they don't do exactly to Heroes Rising or whatever, I kind of also want to see something similar to that in a way, because it's the first time that we'll actually see them working together.
First time in history.
Because we've never seen them work together.
Ever.
Apart from, I mean, we had that one moment where they were in that challenge against All Might, but does that really count?
They fought against Shigaraki in the first war. That didn't go as well as we wanted to, but that was a
because after Bakugo, of course, opened up his mouth, he gets side railed real quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of the first war and going back to Stain, where is he? Wouldn't he want to join Heroes in this?
Well, you see, All Might's leading the Suicide Squad, and that's when Gentle Criminal and La Brava and the rest of the crew, Lady Nagant, they join the fight and take out the Nomus.
Yeah, I'm still on the note that he was it that chapter or is it last chapter that I think that they are going to reintroduce was it the last chapter that I mentioned? Fuck it, whatever. I was just something tells me that they are going to reintroduce Gentle Criminal and his little sidekick.
La Brava.
Have more respect for La Brava, man. You can't and the rest La Brava.
Yeah. I couldn't recall her name for 1 second. She's short, sidekick. Okay.
Wow, that's bad.
Yes, I know.
Now, I don't know, guys. This chapter was awesome. I think we're in a nice consensus where after a long period of not knowing where everything's going, I think we're all coming together in a consensus of being excited of what comes next. I think Horikoshi took us for a ride, and now I'm kind of grateful that we're riding with him. So that's pretty awesome.
Let me see Uraraka beat the crap out of Toga. That's all I asked for.
That's what needs to happen.
Cat fight.
Okay, bye. So
no comment.
Anything else, guys, on this amazing chapter of My Hero?
No.
This is the soonest we're going to be proven wrong because the next chapter is in like 5 hours.
This is amazing. Well, we'll figure it out.
I will
Okay.
post this about 1 hour after the next chapter arrives. So
Yeah. So, guys, thank you for joining us on our takes on chapter 365 of My Hero. It was awesome. It was a great ride. Horikoshi is giving us a hell of a story, and I love how he's tying a lot of loose ends and bringing more substantial story to some of the characters that we love. I like the idea of death and rebirth, and seeing that in literally in the character of Bakugo, which is a character that needed a new way, a new reason to fight for, or a more enlightening vision. So I'm excited for that character and what's coming. So we will see you next week, guys, when we cover the newest chapter that drops on Monday and then the chapter that drops on Sunday. If it goes on break on Sunday, we're definitely going to be covering next Sunday the latest chapter, 366. We're very excited to see where My Hero goes next, and we look forward to seeing you guys there with us. Mike, if people want to find you somewhere, everywhere, where you at?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere, everywhere, all at once at Novice Cinephile.
Nice.
Pretty much, again, everywhere. And on the chatter after. Lots of fun stuff happening with that. That's wherever you get your podcast, so stay tuned. Or check out the backlog. We actually just re-uploaded on YouTube for the first time the episode of The Last of Us Part 1, which is still a banger recording, if I do say so myself.
Yes, it is.
It's always fun talking to The Last of Us. So check that out. And you can find my writing at collider.com. Recently promoted to senior resource writer, which is fun. So expect a lot more stuff over there.
Goat.
Awesome. Isaac, where can people find you?
Well, you can find my work at Web Entertainment, and you can find me at Emblemaniac on Twitter, and you can find the pod at the Amateur Otaku Pod on Twitter, and we also have a review of Dragon Ball Superhero with Red Geekness and Leo Redell from Geekly Goods on Thursday on this channel.
That sounds amazing. And my heart is still on edge, but you can find me, the Scarlet Fan 52, on Twitter and at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Instagram. Have it awesome, guys. We will see you next time. Go beyond. Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.